You're listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art, where we unearth the hidden treasures, history, and deeper meanings in religious and sacred art. We're your hosts, Kathryn Laffrey
and Alix Murray. Please follow The Secrets of Sacred Art in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. For a fuller experience, you can join us on the SQPN YouTube channel, where you can see all the images we're discussing on the show. You can find us on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, on X at SQPN, or on Instagram at StarQuest Network. So, welcome to our summer special. This is kind of like a different podcast for us. And what we wanted to do, we've kind of missed everyone. Hope you've missed us. We've missed you. And what we want to do is we kind of want to talk about what we've been up to this summer and what's coming for the next season. But we also have some very special guests today. So joining us are some fellow students in the Sacred Arts Master's program at Pontifex University, and they're going to share part of their adventures in the fascinating world of sacred art. And I'd like to...
This has been a regular annual event for us the last couple of years because we used to chat fairly regularly with our Pontifex friends. And
That's true, yeah.
Everybody got a little busier, and we've kind of dwindled down to at least catching up with everyone around this time.
Like we have reunions.
Yeah. We thought it'd be fun. We love our group of friends, and it's kind of what motivated Alix and I to even start this podcast. And we wanted all of you to meet our friends that, kind of boost us in our artistic abilities and get us excited to share more sacred art with people. And Alix and I have been out and about seeing things in the world, and I want to add something to the stage here, Alix.
Oh yeah. So this is, this past May, we went to Scotland, and we went to St. Andrews, and it was my first time going to St. Andrews, going to Fife. I've never been to that part of Scotland, and it was stunningly beautiful, really stunningly beautiful, and lots of really ancient Catholic heritage there, a lot of sacred art. And if you take a look on the screen here, there are two things that I discovered. We went on a really long walk along the coast. It was beautiful. It wasn't like Scotland at all. It was sunny and warm. And I discovered this St. Filian's cave, and he's an old Celtic saint. And you could go to the local cafe and get the key to go down into the cave. But and I kind of wanted to because it was warm, and I thought, if we go into the cave, it'll be nice and cool. But my youngest daughter was a little nervous about doing that, so I thought, okay, fine. But this is St. Filian's cave. And it's very, very old, but I just look at the gate in front of the cave. It's just beautiful, and it's got that gorgeous Celtic cross, and we're going to learn a lot about that this season, about Celtic art. And we've just done so much research on it, and I've gone down 10,000 rabbit holes, and I can't wait to bring everybody with me.
And we can let everyone know what started the rabbit holes when we finished last season with The Secret of Kells, the movie, from Cartoon Salon. We recommend watch that. You'll see why we're kind of obsessing on Celtic art for the next season. And
you know what? It's like, for me, I am discovering, honestly, Kathryn, I can just walk out my door and find this stuff. I never knew that before. I mean,
you
honestly,
live there, Alix.
I know, but it's like, I just don't, but here's the point. Like, you could actually be surrounded by some really incredible sacred art and not even know it. But it's when you start understanding and learning about what you're looking at, you can find it everywhere. And that is what I'm finding. It is so amazing. So much fun.
What's this other picture, Alix?
So this one is in the city of St. Andrews, and it is the remnants of an old Dominican priory. The Dominicans are still present, I believe, in St. Andrews, and a little bit sad there are a lot of remnants of things in St. Andrews, and there are more reasons to go to St. Andrews rather than to go to university or to play golf. Although that's kind of sadly what people do today. But I learned when I went there that St. Andrews at one time was one of the largest pilgrimage sites in medieval Europe, and it also boasted the largest cathedral in the world.
You're going to tease that out later in the season, aren't you?
I am.
Awesome.
But so I learned a lot. Yeah. And then for Christmas and New Year's, we went to southern France, which my husband's a bit of a Francophile, and I'm not as much as he is, but I'm happy to follow along. And we ended up going to Toulouse, which is where a Dominican priory is, and there are relics of St. Thomas Aquinas there. So I went there and got to venerate his relics. But this is the interior of the priory, and it's just beautiful. This is one of the many domed rooms, chapels that were there, and I love it because you can see a couple of the evangelists here. It was hard to take a picture because it was like domed and I'm short, so it's hard to get things the way I wanted it to. And I can't climb on things. I mean, I will do if I can, but I couldn't really climb on anything here. But you can see the two evangelists. I think this would be Saint Mark on the right, if you're looking at the screen, and then Saint John the Evangelist represented by the eagle with the lamb in the middle. And just under the lamb, you can see the ark of like Noah's Ark. I almost said the Ark of the Covenant, but of course,
Noah's Ark. Got it.
Noah's Ark. Yeah, you can, or the bark of Peter. You could look at it that way. And so in this is probably from the, I want to say it's going to be from the 13th, 14th century. Beautiful.
So it's just showing everyone beautiful art in France is there.
Oh, yes.
God bless France.
There is a lot of beautiful art. Yeah, sorry. Then now let's go on to what you've been up to, Kathryn.
Yeah, so this summer, my daughter asked me to go with her to Spain. Of course, I said, sure. Gotta
would say no.
We would say no, right? So we went to spent most of our time in Valencia. And then we did a weekend in Barcelona and a day trip to Madrid. And while we were in Valencia, just within walking distance of our apartment we rented, was the Basilica of Our Lady of, oh my goodness, I just forgot it. It has to do with people who are in a desperate situation. I can't remember the word right now. But that's the pink building with the blue dome and has absolutely
Is it Our Lady of Perpetual Help?
Not Perpetual Help. It's like the Destitute, something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. And so just beautiful. And right next to it, you gotta love that there is literally a church everywhere you turn in Valencia. Right next to it is the cathedral in Valencia, which is very old, been around for a long time. And in the little green framed image, it houses the most authenticated, most likely the true at 99% authenticated chalice of Christ, the one used at the Last Supper.
So a lot of good chain of custody in this.
Good chain of custody in that. And to be in that little chapel, this is a side chapel within the main cathedral, for Mass, just, I was
That's
crying.
just like our Lord, though. When you think about how he showed up, it would make sense. Yep. He's happy to have his chalice here. Yeah.
But then also gorgeous. In Valencia is what's called Spain's version of the Sistine Chapel. I've never been in the Sistine Chapel. My daughter has, and she says she prefers St. Nicholas in Valencia over the Sistine Chapel. Every inch of this thing is painted. Beautiful statues and side chapels and carving and absolutely gorgeous icons and Western style and just fabulous work.
It looks so beautiful. Yeah. I have a quick question for you about this. When you went in, I'm just curious, what was the environment like? Like, was it quiet? Were people talking a lot, or were people like whispering?
No, actually, we went to go in, and they had a sign posted out in front of this little. So you go into a side door. The church is now surrounded by other buildings, so you have to go into the side door, not the main entrance. And so, we actually said, "Oh, we're going to go change our clothes," because I was wearing at the time a shirt with no sleeves, and they had a sign that said "No tank tops." Quiet. This is a place of worship. So that was such a blessing to go into a church this beautiful and know that people were in there praying with the art. Exactly what sacred art's supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah. So the reason I ask is because I've seen the Sistine Chapel. And when we went years ago, and they have these priests standing on these tall ladders. I don't know if they're still there anymore. And they repeatedly go, "Silencio." Be quiet, because people are just, it was really, when we were there, and I don't know if it's because it's famous. It's one of these things about art. Like, why is the Mona Lisa famous? Is it famous because it's amazing, or is it famous because it's famous? And people just, I think the sense of it being a place of worship, and, when you're in a sacred place, was lost. And I was really kind of disappointed, not in the art, but just in how it was being lost on people. So it's I'm really pleased to hear that here, it's not been lost. Maybe because it's not well known. See, that's what I think. Exactly.
It's very hidden, and you have to make it an effort to find it. And then, of course, next to it is the pile of postcards and pictures I could not resist buying when we went to the Prado, and got to see the newly discovered Caravaggio, which was fabulous. So
we should talk about that.
Yeah,
we should.
We're gonna have all kinds of great things to talk about after our Celtics run. We're gonna have to hit Spain and talk about all of Spain.
Yeah.
But for right now, we have a group of friends we want to introduce to everybody. So I'm going to add to our stage here some of our friends.
Hello. And then
we have one more to add. So, yay.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. So I'm going to just start off one by one. I'm going to introduce you, each one of you, and I want you to just take a few moments to tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll get to chat, and then our viewers and listeners will get to hear kind of how we are always talking sacred art. And so we're just going to give them a little bit of a peek. Like, let's pretend that we're all together again with our Pontifex chat, just like we did in the old days. So let's start off with Helen. Helen, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
I'm Helen Deletto. I am actually, a tax attorney by day. And what that actually led me into doing what I do, which is I make custom rosaries at the moment. When I was in law school, I needed money. And I discovered Anglican rosaries because I was Anglican at the time. And I started making them, and I put them in some shops, and they sold. And then years later, I joined Our Lady's Rosary Makers that make rosaries for the missions. And then a friend asked me, can you make me a rosary for, if you see the picture of the white rosary, for a friend
beautiful.
Who was in a religious community. And she wanted a special gift for him. So I took the color of his habit. And then I had a centerpiece made with his saint. I sourced out the beads. I had to have the right feel. I had to find the right crucifix. And that also happened with the rosary, which has the colors of the Ukraine. Because a friend of mine grew up in the Ukraine, and she was affected deeply by it, lost family members. And so I made her the rosary in the colors of the Ukraine, and with Saint Michael, the Archangel, who is the patron saint of Kiev.
Okay.
And she's Orthodox, so the Orthodox, and the sunflower is a symbol of the Ukraine, unofficial symbol, which is a symbol of peace. So that's what I end up doing, is I get to know the person what their likes are. Because what I've discovered is if there's a rosary that is personal to you, you are more apt to use it than if it's just a rosary that someone has handed to you. So this is made specifically for the person. It's prayed over. And I source the beads. I go to bead shows because I need a particular bead for a person. And that's what I do. My next adventure is going to stained glass and mosaic work.
Oh, wow.
We can't wait to see what's going to happen. These are beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Helen.
You.
So next we want to introduce you to Sharon. Sharon, do you want to just take a few moments to tell us a little bit about yourself, your whole name and where you are and kind of where you are in your little adventure?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sharon Klosik, and I'm from Narragansett, Rhode Island. And I, believe it or not, retired 2 weeks ago from a job.
Congratulations.
We're done getting my youngest through college. And part of the reason why I'm retiring is because I'm a new grandma. My oldest daughter has a 6-week-old. So we're new grandparents, and I'll be watching her a couple of times a week when they go back to work. But the other reason is to, I think, just continue this ministry that I feel called to with my art, with creating sacred art. I have just a real deep love for beautiful art, and through this program, through Pontifex, I've learned so much more about my faith, and it's helped me a lot in my life to apply that to my art. And God is the true source. He is beauty with a capital B. And I think, I'm driven by this just deep love I have for my faith. And, it comes out in my expression with my paintings. I work in oil paint mainly.
Sharon, I have to say your grandmotherly love is showing in this image of Mary right here.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful. Our little granddaughter wasn't born at that point when I painted.
But you were waiting.
This baby,
you were ready.
But I'll be painting a lot more babies.
You were ready.
So I really paint what I feel God is, inspiring in me. I paint the saints sometimes. I did a lot of paintings at a parish of particular saints. I love to paint Our Lady. As you can see, I mainly work in oil, but I am really experimenting more with graphite pencil. I've always sketched, but I'm doing more graphite pencil. I just finished a portrait actually of 6 adult kids. They're actually giving to their parents today, presenting to their parents today a portrait in pencil. So that was really exciting and fun. I enjoyed it a lot. So I just go where the Spirit leads me. But my main focus and love is sacred art.
Nice. And then you did a little tie-in piece here to an episode we just did not too long ago. Actually, it came out around Memorial Day, where we talked about traveling military altars. And here you have here. This is Father
Emil Capone.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. So the vocations director of the U.S. military asked for me to do a portrait of Father Emil Capone. He has a real quite a devotion to him, and he uses this painting to show the young men coming in who are interested in the priesthood, military priesthood. He just shows them and he teaches them about Father Emil and just the courage and the strong faith of this servant of God. So he asked me to do a painting, and it hangs in his office in DC.
Nice.
And
nice.
So So they an article came out in the National Catholic Register on it. Right around.
Very nice. I wonder if Father Corey is going to see this, Kathryn. What do you think? That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, that's right. We have one of our priests who was in our podcast group who's heading off to the chaplaincy. So I wonder if you'll get to see this picture.
Oh, I hope
Exactly.
so.
That would be so cool. That would be so cool. So, and lastly, we want to introduce you to Fred. And Fred, please take a moment. Fred has been with us from the beginning. And you know what, Fred? You were always so encouraging of Kathryn and I maybe doing a podcast or recording some of our chats. And I have to say, we probably wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you.
Well, I did some real amateur versions, but you guys tapped into a really good network here that supported you and giving you really good tools that I would have never,
Absolutely
afforded. So I'm glad you got tied in. This is awesome.
And
thanks for including me. This is great. I really miss you guys. I mean, so my background is growing up in traditions, a couple of different traditions that had nothing to do with imagery, statuary, cathedrals were verboten. Everything about it was just, it was Christian, but it was just bereft of that kind of thing. And so when I turned to the ancient faith, I turned into the Byzantine door and just got overwhelmed with the beauty of it. And just moth to flame to the iconography of the Byzantine rites. I went into the, Antiochian rite, which is not in communion with Rome. But then there came a point where my wife wanted to try to be, she said, no way, I will never be that Byzantine thing. I don't like those smells and bells and weird chanting and all that stuff, but I loved it. I'm a musician, so I just gravitated. But she said, I'll become Catholic. So I basically got a hug and became Catholic, and she balked and didn't, and she's still, she's on her own journey. But now I'm basically ambidextrous. So I'm a Byzantine, I'm a literally Byzantine Catholic. I'm Byzantine. They never kicked me out of the Orthodox Church. Okay. They never anathematized me. So I got a hug from the Catholic
You got both
Church.
lungs going.
I know, right?
There you go.
So,
You're breathing in both lungs.
Just love, and so I just, learning all the Orthodox prayers over the years, and then what happened is they were always fused with icons, always. And so as I'm recovering from different, compulsive behaviors and helping my friends in recovery and my incarcerated friends, I just sharing images and little prayers that bubble up with those images or get paired with those images, traditional prayers, whatever. Some of them I write, some of them are traditional. I always have my priest and my theologian friend check them over, make sure I'm not heretical in any of the prayers. But the prayers bubble up and come together, and they seem to combine with the images. And I've probably shared about, probably in the order of 10,000 of these cards now for free. Photon Farms doesn't want any money. We want people to keep donating so we can pay it forward. But basically, I make more cards and distribute them as people donate. And I, of course, now got smart by making it a nonprofit in the last couple of years so that I can donate to myself monthly, too. And as I collect money for myself, I can write that off, too. But bottom line is I distribute a lot of these cards. I do other things with the incarcerated and those in recovery. But art is, and that's why I was drawn when I read David's books, and I'm just like, and I was mostly listening to David's podcast, David Clayton. We're going to go into that later, I'm sure, but at Pontifex University. But I just I get him. I synced with him right away, and then I met Kathryn here in Grand Rapids, and got to meet Alix and Helen when we were in where were we? We're in Princeton,
New Jersey.
Princeton.
I wasn't in New Jersey. I wasn't there.
I met you here in Michigan.
When Alex, I was visiting.
I got to meet Helen in Jersey. But so when it comes down to the cards, basically it was a matter of, well, how do you get copyrights for this? Well, it turns out that most monastics don't want anything for their art. And it's a lot of monastic art that I'm using. You know what I mean? And the stuff that I can find, and I've asked, like this one right here, St. Patrick. I tracked down the woman where it was sold. It turns out her husband, who had all these icons, has passed, but all the proceeds are going to her. But she said, if you're using it for free, just go for it. And so, when I have contacted people and talked to them, said, oh, please use it, please. And then, of course, with the QR code, you go to the webpage. It explains the icon more, the prayers more, and links to their site if they have one. But a lot of times you can't find it because, honestly, they don't want to be found a lot of times. So.
Yeah, they want to stay hidden.
So, Yeah.
So Fred, you mentioned your incarcerated brothers, and I put up a picture here from a recent blog you wrote.
Yeah.
You were doing a book donation. I thought that was really wonderful to share.
The local jail it's run by groups that don't welcome Catholics that much anymore, but which is really strange because most institutions do. Most institutions will let us bring the Eucharist in and do Bible studies. They're absolutely all over it. But this particular jail kind of parted ways with us, but I got to keep doing video visits and pen pal with these guys. And I'd already started a little library there in the chaplain's office, and then they said, we want a Catholic video visitor and a Catholic pen pal because guys are asking for it. Well, yeah, they're hungry. You're not even letting the Eucharist in there. So, yeah, they're starving, right? And so I was able to donate, my nonprofit was able to donate a bunch of books, and I have another pile over on the shelf to go to as well. And the prayer cards, the one of Jesus reaching down through the water that's viral on the internet.
You can kind of
bottom
see
right,
that
bottom
here.
left.
Yeah.
Okay, that's young son Kim. And I almost got permission from him, but he didn't stop me either. So, and he knows I'm distributing. That's the most popular prayer card, and it just has little moment prayers. And man, is it important! Stay in the moment, for any incarcerated or somebody recovery. So there's a pile
Fred,
of those at the jail as well.
I love that you're a good promoter of the art, the sacred art. It's so important.
Well, it's about beauty.
It's hard.
Beauty. People are, especially in jail and prison, they're so hungry for beauty. They're just starving.
Oh, absolutely.
There's not much beauty there. Trust me.
So a little bit, and just
and God is beauty, right?
Light.
God is beauty.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a light in the darkness. A light in the darkness. Yeah.
That's why he's Photon Farmer Fred.
That's right.
Exactly.
Growing in it.
I know. Yes. Excellent. So, Kathryn, did you want to talk a little bit about kind of Pontifex, or shall we just go right into our discussion? How did you want to do that?
We had two friends that couldn't join us today.
Right.
And I really wanted to share their work because we have Helen, who makes rosaries, beautiful. We've got Sharon and her lovely paintings. Fred, who is like the ultimate promoter of sacred art. Go Fred. So what was really unique when we met in Princeton, met Marta, beautiful woman. And she came up to me and she goes, I'm a landscaper and I want sacred art and landscape to go together. What do you think? And I was like, yes. Yes, it does go together. And so this is actually a couple of her works that she's done. So she recently did a Marian garden, and that's in the yellow frame there.
Yeah.
And then in the center, this is for a church that wanted to have a labyrinth outside that'll kind of help people negotiate from out in the world to into the church. And show the picture shows this is St. Anthony's Church, and this labyrinth is actually copied from the one in Chartres Cathedral.
Yeah, in France. Beautiful. Yeah, and the one in Chartres is inside. Sorry, it's inside the cathedral.
It's inside.
But this one it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a good way to work yourself into church. Take your time. And the last one she did, this memorial garden. I was really kind of bummed we didn't have Marta on to explain it to us, but hopefully, we'll get her to or contact her, and I bet she will. This is set up outside of a church, and I love the way that we have the image of the enclosed garden, like we hear in the Old Testament, the theme that keeps repeating. It's modeled in the tabernacle and temple of the people of God as they were traversing wandering through the desert, and the way God asked for it to be set up. And I love how this looks like she's modeled it after that. So thinking of that enclosed garden.
Yeah.
So very beautifully done.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah. And she's down in Georgia, by the way. And then one other friend who couldn't join us is Jill Roots, and she does a lot of freelance art, a wide variety of styles. One thing that she does, and if you ever happen across her Facebook page, you'll see her chalk art. And this is something that she does for her parish or neighboring parishes. She's actually even had kids helping her out doing the chalk art, or even she's done a few chalk art competitions, which I thought was really neat.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And every now and then she'll try to do an artist gathering and groups like that. She's out in Rock Island, Illinois area. So if you get a chance, we've got all of her contact information for Jill as well. So we've had so many wonderful friends, that
doing
we've
all kinds
met.
of different things. Yeah. And
All kinds
just
of different things.
The different aspects of bringing this sacred art and beauty into the culture. That's what we want to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
And all of this is thanks to
Dun, da, da, da.
Pontifex University. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've heard Alix and I mention Pontifex University every now and then. It's an online university. You have the opportunity for a couple different studies and things to do, and diplomas and certificates. Fred, you actually doing something different from the rest of us, because Alix and I and Helen and Sharon, we're all doing the Masters of Sacred Art program and certificates. And Fred, you're doing something different. What are you doing?
True. Yes. So I found out I found Pontifex through Theology of the Body Institute, actually.
Okay.
And I was taking towards a certificate there, and I noticed that they were partnering with David Clayton and Pontifex University to do a master's of, what's it called? New Evangelization in Sacred Art. I think that's what so it's kind of like a combination, half and half. So
Yeah.
and so that's why I got involved, because I'm like, man, I love icons and I love theology of the body. I use it all when I'm working with my incarcerated friends and my friends in recovery. I just use it all the time, both.
I bet.
Right?
I was going to say, I bet they both really
Absolutely.
work well together.
They work together, for sure. So
Totally.
And then
makes sense.
Theology of the Body, Fred, a little quick background. Where did that come from?
Yeah, this is St. John Paul II, our beloved St. John Paul II, basically, 5 words, God wants to marry us. And boy, start unpacking that with St. John Paul II lens, and you've got a book of philosophy and theology about, 4 inches thick. And it's taken about 50 years for it to get distilled down. It was delivered in the 80s and 90s. So anyway, it's taken a while to distill down for people like Dr. West and others to get it down to our level so we can get our heads around it. But it's absolutely beautiful, and it's nothing new. It's a teaching of the church and really Judaism for 4,000 years. But it's put in now a context of our relationship with God is supposed to be like a marriage, and all the intimacies and nitty-gritties involved, which really, when you unfold it, it's such a loving approach to human anthropology and sexuality and just what it means to be created male and female, period. It's just, and
Beautiful.
to live that out. So yeah, it is beautiful.
Yeah, it's not an easy read. I did read the Theology of the Body, which is a compiling of John Paul II's Wednesday audiences.
Yes.
And you want something to strengthen your marriage and to make you fall even more in love with your spouse. Read it. As hard as it is to read it. And it deepens your understanding of the beauty of the sacrament of marriage.
Yep.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to see these wonderful options here at Pontifex University. So there's little certificates that kind of can be combined together to have the Masters of Sacred Art degree. And so there's a certificate of biblical studies. I think I've done part of that. Old Testament, New Testament, Psalms, and there's a lot of art and images with all of these. Yeah. And then philosophical studies. Alix, you've done some of the philosophy class.
Yeah.
More than one.
I've enjoyed them. I think I've done one so far, but I really enjoyed it. But I do a lot of philosophy anyway. So yeah.
Nice. And then liturgy and culture. There's a nice class that takes you in depth into the Mass, and there's even a movie class. Kind of fun.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested in something like that. Yeah. You talk about WALL-E. What a great movie. And then the Sacred Art Capstone. That's where you put it all together and do a piece to represent for your capstone. And then there's all kinds of other things here. They even have a doctorate program which I think is wonderful to offer. And meeting David Clayton early on and me joining, gosh, that was 5 years ago or more. Still working on it. Thank you, David Clayton, that this is self-paced. But he mentioned
it's
the
like a
reason
double-edged
for the
sword. That
yes, it is. But the reason for the self-pacing and these options is so that it would be easy for busy people to be able to continue their studies. And I'm only now, as I get older in life, understanding the importance. I've always loved studying things, but to really like take a class and get into studying and just the importance of keeping that going. And actually, Helen, you play right into that because you love studying. You've gotten degrees in how many different things now?
This is going to be my 6th.
You're 6.
Oh my gosh. Are you sure you're not a
So is it like a half time? Is it like your favorite pastime or you just love learning?
I love learning, but I also like to have more guidance, and I do need a little bit of time pressure because I love to deep dive. So sometimes I need a little guidance with not getting too deep into minutia. Just trying to. And then my husband now has said we're going to be taking Italian together at the university.
Oh, wow.
Which is another. And of course, I said, well, great. You're the one who said you didn't want me getting more degrees. And here you have signing me up for another college because I had to enroll to take the course.
Oh, yeah, but that just means you can, when you go to Italy, it's going to be a really special trip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like getting into the Italian artists. So.
Exactly. Well, I just have a couple of questions for all of us. I'm just going to throw them out there, and we just please jump in with any thoughts that you might have. So, my first question, and it is a little bit of a softball question, is: do you think there's a need for sacred art in in contemporary society? Do you think we need it? Beautiful works of sacred art.
I look at
Fred's laughing.
It's a no-brainer.
I tend to look at sacred art as an antidote to despair. Because right now, in this world that we're in, I see it, everyone is lonely, everyone's scared, there's a lot of anger. And when I look at a piece of sacred art, I'm lifted away from that.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I think of Gollum when he says, "We are famished, precious." You know, that's that line from Lord of the Rings. People are starving for something beautiful and meaningful and true and good, and they don't even know what they're starving for. They're in the water of chaos, clinging to a board. They don't even know it, and it's not our job to yell at them for being in the water. But sometimes when you hold up something beautiful, they're like, they wait. They reach
What's
for
that?
Sometimes, not always. And then you're standing there in the water with Jesus, and you say, "Well, come with us. There's the Dawn Treader over here, and it's going to glory. Let's go." You know, if they want, but it's so rare that they even know they're in the water. It's just
It is.
I know. I didn't know. I didn't know I was in the water.
Right, and they don't know what beautiful art really is. I mean, if you look at our art today,
we're told to
in
be
our
suspicious
culture,
of things.
right? And you think of our young children viewing, for example, the art in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. I know I mentioned this. There's families with young children sitting down, and they're looking at this, thinking, okay, this is our art for today. This is what beautiful art should look like. And it's not beautiful. It's actually, so much of it is demonic. And they don't know the difference. And so it's our jobs, in a way, as artists, to show what the difference is. And it's as Pope John Paul II said, we as artists, we have a responsibility to use our gifts that we have as artists, and it's almost like a deeper responsibility that we have, and more not you don't want to say more important, but it is so vitally important that we use the gifts that God has given us, because it's so needed today in our culture.
Absolutely.
The way you mentioned that, just one tiny story. I was on the boat tour in Chicago, and we were looking at architecture, and most of it is like, you know, most of these skyscrapers, even the corncob buildings in Chicago, are one note loud and long. And nobody would endure that in a symphony for half an hour. They'd get up and leave. But it is impressive, but it's not beautiful. And then, okay, we turned the corner. We came around to the Mercantile building, and then there's a bank behind it, I think, an old banking building that's made in the traditional, classical style with due proportion and proportions based on the human body, right? And people they didn't say a word. They just kind of went, and you could hear this breath of, oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the human. That's human body language saying they're starving for that, but they don't know it. They don't know it or why.
No,
maybe they've been
but they know it when they
against
see it.
They don't even have to say it. Their bodies say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you, Fred. Yeah. And, and I actually have, I'm blessed to live in exactly where I would, I live in the Shire, essentially. and it's just this quaint little beautiful village. And when you talk about proportion, whether you're talking about the bridge or the houses kind of rambling up the side of the gorge, it's lovely to be around, and people they behave differently around beauty. Even if it's a quaint little village, they conduct themselves differently. And it's kind of like when I asked Kathryn about this with her image from Spain. There, you can definitely tell when you go into a sacred space, because suddenly people start to whisper. And they don't even think about it. And again, it's like this instinctive thing. They know they're in this special place. And it's because of the beauty. And I'd rather be overwhelmed by beauty than overwhelmed by, as you said, Fred, one long, loud note. Because both can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We had such a contrast in one day's time. My daughter and I were in Barcelona. The Sagrada Familia is almost finished. They got about a year to go. And it had elements that were, beauty, sacred art. And at the same time, it had elements that you're like, nope, something's not right here. Because just like that, the tone would change. You would be in a spot where everyone was just being absorbed by it. And then the next thing you know, all of a sudden the phones are out. Everyone's doing selfies. You've got kids posing for crazy pictures for TikTok and all kinds of other stuff. And it's like, no, we went from looking at God to looking at ourselves. And it was sad to see it was happening in the same space. And we were actually glad that we missed going into, you have to stand in line for an hour plus to try to make it to Sunday Mass in the Sagrada Familia, which is great. People are standing in line for it. I wish everyone was standing in line for Mass and not just to get in free to see the cathedral. Or not cathedral. It's the basilica. But we were glad we missed. So here we were, 10 people away from getting in. And we're like, quick, where does the subway take us? Let's get somewhere that we know we want to be. And we ended up going to the cathedral in Barcelona, which is a gorgeous old Gothic building that has been so well preserved. And then to have the joy of actually running through the small little space between the cathedral and the buildings in the rain, watching water pouring out of the gargoyles on top of us. It was like, you felt like we'd stepped back in time. It was so much fun. And then to go into Mass and be in just a gorgeous, beautifully preserved and maintained, listening to the Mass beautifully sung in Catalan and Latin and and Greek, because the Kyrie, and it was fabulous, because all of a sudden you step out of time and you're just sitting there. Well,
this is
God.
The thing. This is the Mass, and this is what beautiful sacred art does. This is what beauty does. It's like time travel. You're immediately connecting with the people of another time who are looking at it in the same way. And that's the thing, is to understand what you're looking at. So
if I could tell a quick little story, Kathryn, just because it makes me think of your visit to Spain, and you were in Madrid. My husband and I, this past Christmas, we went to Portugal with my family, but just then the two of us popped over to Madrid, Spain, just the two of us to celebrate an anniversary. And I wanted to go to the Prado Museum because my favorite painting of Velasquez's Christ Crucified is in there,
Yes.
the original.
Yes.
And I didn't know where it was. It's a huge museum, and I didn't know where it was, but eventually we entered a room and it was there. And when you talk about, like, you go to another place, I rounded the corner and it was on the back wall, huge, just staring at me. Yeah. And when I say I stopped dead in my tracks and I was frozen, and I swear I feel like I entered heaven for a moment. I had tears streaming down my face, and I didn't want to leave that moment. And my soul was raised to God. And I thought, this is beauty. This is true beauty.
Yeah.
And it was just such
Beauty,
a beautiful
goodness, and
experience
truth.
that I had.
Yeah.
Truth, goodness, and beauty. Yep. So we need that in our culture.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. We're so hungry for it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to just skip to actually another question, because Sharon, you kind of, it's going to be like a nice flow into this. So I think you've already done it, giving us an example of sacred art that's really impacted your life, that might, and how do you see that it could help your art influence others? So let me kind of ask that again. So it's in two parts. Why don't you give me an example of a sacred art that has really impacted your life? Sharon, you like I said, you did that's perfect, yours. And Fred, Helen, can you think of something off the top of your head?
Well, it was actually the same painting that for me, when I first saw it, because I was raised Pentecostal, you do not have a crucifix. So when I saw that, I remember seeing an image of it and saying, what is that? That is so beautiful.
Chills.
It's so beautiful. It took me away. I don't know how long I was staring at the image. And that started me on the road, really, of wanting to know more about what is a crucifix?
Wow.
What is Catholicism?
Wow.
Yeah.
And then going from there.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
How about you, Fred?
Yeah, something that really impacted me. When you start worshiping in the Byzantine rite, at least, everything is chanted, everything is sung for the liturgy, usually antiphonally, and that combines their images. They're like when they pray, and they'll be incensing. They're praying to Mary. They'll incense the icon of Mary, and they'll all face her. And we're talking to our mother. It's just so beautiful, right?
Yes,
And then when they're talking to St. John the Apostle, usually the patron, there's an icon of the patron of the church. They incense him and they say, pray for us. And then you're just looking around, and I mean, probably the most profound thing that happened to me was I had started coming into recovery through St. Fotini, but I didn't even know her name. Fotini is the woman at the well. And I looked up in church one day, and I saw this woman holding a water jar by a well, and it said St. Fotini. And I realized that was my girl. That's the one that's been praying for me this whole time.
Wow.
So it was just like so powerful. It was like, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, I obviously have heard my prayer. I'm pointing to my prayer wall here, which I have, Fotini in a couple places. But anyway, yeah, so it connected me so viscerally. The icons were such a visceral connection when you've been starving for any kind. We did have flannel boards in my little Sunday school growing up, okay? I don't want to say there were no
Flannel boards?
the flannel board.
Yes, Alix?
Here's Jesus.
No, I was raised atheist. I don't know.
Yeah. Flannel boards were they used in Sunday school in a lot of non-Catholic churches.
And
But
made very
anyway,
popular by VeggieTales.
Yeah, right. VeggieTales is awesome though. So it's a whole other set of icons.
So funny.
But so I think it was just that experience of integrating smells, bells, sounds, music, the iconography. Go through your first Easter. Easter is exhausting in the Eastern Orthodox Church. In a good way, though. You're at church probably 20 hours that week or more. Wow. 20 to 23 hours, and the pastor's exhausted at the end as well, and the deacons and everybody. But what some of the most gorgeous, and beautiful, poignant, and it's very interactive physically. So that was me. That was my can't get enough of this, and I was starving for it, and it just filled that need in my heart. And of course, it's all centered around the Eucharist, right? Eating and drinking God, right? So it's all centered around that. So, which is the most beautiful thing.
How about you, Kathryn? I don't know if we've ever talked about like a piece of sacred art that's impacted us. I can think of one for me, but what about you? And then I'll be last, and we'll move on.
One piece of art. Oh, it's hard to say one. Really, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been blessed to be saturated by it since I was a kid. I mean, where we grew up near Detroit with all the beautiful old neo-Gothic churches that sprung up from the immigrant communities, Italian, Polish, German, all those communities. And we had talked about St. Anne's in Detroit a couple episodes ago. Yeah. So, I mean, growing up, my immigrant parish that my great-grandfather helped found was St. Hedwig's in Detroit. And yes, just a beautiful Polish Catholic church. It's lovely. So, I guess it's just always been that kind of thing. The stained glass really is what gets me. And
so like the medium of stained glass. Yeah,
stained glass has always been very inspiring to me. And Alix, you got to see when Alix came to visit me this summer. I took her to Holy Rosary up in the little peninsula, Leelanau Peninsula, and the stained glass there. We took some time after Mass and just let ourselves be filled with lights.
What are you doing?
Literally, it's like, wow.
It was beautiful. We were there for a while. Yeah. Well, I have to say, one example of sacred art that really impacted me on lots of different levels, because I thought it so beautifully communicated a message. It's when I went to Chartres Cathedral. This was, again, a couple of years ago. And we were walking around the cathedral. And there are some Gothic statues. I couldn't tell you where it was. Do you know, like when you go someplace and you've seen 1,000 different things and you're like, I don't know where that is in the church, or in the cathedral, but it's in there. I think it was probably close to one of the altars. And it was an image of the woman being stoned. And so they have this, and Christ is like standing in front of her. He's drawn the line in the sand, and he's talking to everyone. But what was so impactful to me was there was one image, everyone's holding a stone and looking at her in a very judgmental way. And this one figurine has a stone, and he's holding it out to you.
Oh,
do you know what like, join us in this. It's exactly. And it was, it's one of these things where you just stop and go, wow. And it just the impact that made on me was, I still remember it. It was beautifully executed. It was probably, it was probably 2/3, the size of, human scale, but, or life size, and beautifully carved. But to have that one character look, and he's looking right at you, and he's got the stone in his hand. Yeah. Wow. That's talk about making an impact. And that was done hundreds of years ago, and it still made me stop and, ooh. You know what I mean?
I'd love to sit there in a place where I could watch people look at that. I would I didn't think to do that because I was so...
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's fun to watch how people react to different elements in sacred art. Are they being drawn in? Are they being hit by a hard truth? It's always fascinating to like see what's the experience, what's happening, and how is God using them. It makes me stop and think as an artist. It's like I've got to make sure that I am staying with him, because I don't want anything I do to confuse anyone or take them away from him in any way.
Yeah, this is the thing. I was not confused with that experience. I knew exactly what was going on. And I think also when you talk about watching people, I love to sit back and watch people at museums or art exhibits. And I always find it interesting. We just got back. My sister-in-law and mother went to the quilt exhibit in Birmingham. So amazing. I mean, I'm not a quilter. But I can definitely admire all this stuff. And so there were traditional quilts, there were art quilts and all this stuff, but a lot of the contemporary stuff, if you watched, a lot of people would get super close because they wanted to see the stitches, and they were discussing, and they were doing all these things with a lot of the traditional quilts and the art quilts that were really amazing. But some of the more abstract, kind of shocking contemporary stuff, they just walked right by. They looked at it and just kept on moving. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Because the beautiful ones were sparking conversation, not only conversations between the people, but the conversations between the maker and the image itself. And that's what is so vital in sacred art, is to spark that relationship with our Lord, with the faithful of the past, with the faithful today, and with the faithful in the future. That's what sacred art is supposed to do. And it does do it. When it does it well, we know it because people keep going back to it. They really do. Yeah. So, actually, we'd like to take a moment now, if we could, to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Sacred Art, including Chris E., Ryan Z., Paul E., Lauren N., and Christopher K. And thank you for all of those really easy names this time around. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Sacred Art and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And I think we have one more question before we kind of wrap everything up. This has been fun. This is like a lot shorter than the conversations we usually have, but I think this is a good way for us to kind of wrap things up, and then Kathryn and I will bid you adieu. But now, how are you hoping to facilitate better worship of God through your art?
We'll start with Fred there.
Okay. Yeah. I'll be the... Yeah, so I had a woman. So I have installations. You maybe saw the picture. I have installations in a few different places. Photon Farms is the tiniest nonprofit on earth, right? And I'm fine with that. I don't really care how God grows it, how fast he grows it. But here's what happened. I have an installation at IHM, which is Immaculate Heart of Mary down the street, and I go there every Friday morning for my holy hour. And I make sure that it's well stocked and has, my current arrangement of icons that I provide and prayer cards. We call it Visio Divina. That's what a priest told me this is called, Visio Divina. And I thought, I didn't even know. Whatever. Okay, cool. Yeah. So out of the blue,
but I got to say real quick, anyone who's a catechist, Fred's cards work great with middle school kids too. Right. I used them. Excellent. They were good, Fred. Yes. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, the rosy ones too. Anyway. So what happened is this young woman, 30 years old, 2 kids, a husband. She's grew up kind of not very religious, but her husband was cradle Catholic, and she entered the Catholic Church, and she's on fire right now. And she writes to me and says, she emails me out of the blue through the cards, because you hit the QR code, it goes to my webpage, you can fill out for and talk, you can connect with me. And she just says, I have to be part of this. This has impacted my life so much. Are you a prophet? What's going on? Are you just one person? And she's like going on and on. So it's like, oh my gosh, more of that, right? And she goes to St. Paul down the street, and she's already talked to the people there, and she wants to put an installation in. She says, what else can I do? Right? And I said, well, you're already doing, that's amazing. I haven't had that. So if God grows that through that because it really takes one person being blessed by it. And we're both theology body lovers. And so she's reading all the TOB that's infused into some of the cards. So she's just, that kind of thing is how, if God wants to grow it, fine. But I didn't see this coming. I didn't see one person catching a fire and realizing this has blessed me so much, this will bless others too. I knew that inherently because it's blessed me just to make the art. And I'm just a layout artist, right? I'm not a painter. But so
looks like Photon Farms is getting field workers.
Yes,
right? And it's like, Lord,
right?
send them into the harvest, and that's fine. And that's so, that kind of thing is what I hope. Well, that'll make it spread. And I have a friend that's trying to get them in prison. One of my board members is trying to get it in the prisons out in Maryland. And so God's will be done. I really have detached myself from if or how far this grows. I've given a set of sample cards to my bishop and many other no response whatsoever. But this young lady, who knows what God will do through her testimony? Because it's not me promoting something I did. It's her saying, no, this really, see what I'm saying? So, okay, I'll shut up there, but that's really touched my heart. And she's coming over for family dinner in 2 weeks. So, with
beautiful.
Her family, so.
Beautiful. So. Excellent. Well done, Fred. So, Helen, Sharon, who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I will say, what I have noticed with the rosaries, at first they were made for people who are Catholics and they pray the rosary. I started getting more calls from people that wanted rosaries for people who were either fallen away or were not Catholic. But by doing something that's personalized, that's special to them, one woman, she loved fall, the autumn season, so I found beads that were in the color of fall. I found, so that is what I do, and that has helped some people. I got a good response from that. The person said they were interested, and because they thought that a rosary had to be made of wood or had to be only look a certain way, and that shows a lot of rigidity. So when I do, I've done rosaries with the colors of the Mets, New York Mets. I've done fun rosary school colors, the Italian flag with Padre Pio. So I've done a lot of that, and it's been a lot of fun. And now I moved, so this is just finished my first month in central New York. And I was asked to lead an art group at the church, because apparently there were several people that are creative and they don't know what to do. So once they heard I was pursuing a master's in sacred art, they said, you'd be perfect. So come winter, that's what I'll be involved with.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
Can I commission you to do a rosary? Is that something
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just thinking this.
I got ideas in my mind. Like, she would make these come to life. Your rosaries are so beautiful. Exactly. I love our mother.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Who knows what could come of this?
Exactly.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay, Sharon, how about you? You want to share something?
Yeah, first I just have to say, Helen, I am so impressed by all your degrees. This master's for me is like the biggest thing for me in my life. I'm just trying to get through it.
I get it.
So, wow, good for you. And Fred, I'm so impressed that you work with the incarcerated and you bring beauty. And that's been in the back of my head for a while. And I would love to somehow bring beauty to our prisons here. Maybe we can talk sometime.
Absolutely.
Because I wouldn't even know where to begin.
They didn't
where to find me to do anything. But anyway, I think what Kathryn said too earlier. She mentioned how important it is, like in her art, like she doesn't want to lead anyone astray or anything like that, and it's so true. And I think the closer we stay to Christ as sacred artists, and the deeper our faith can grow, then we can trust that the Spirit's going to work through us to do what He wants to do. But the second we take our eyes, and I find this in my own life, the second I take my eyes off Christ and I just do for me, then my art isn't that good.
Sink into the water, right?
There you go.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite images, because God really came and pulled me. And I think as a sacred artist, that's just so important to keep that focus on Christ so He can provide. And I think too, I was thinking of this when Fred was talking, and I think that's our gospel reading for today, the multiplication of the feeding of the 5,000. Like, when we give ourselves over to our calling, God is going to multiply, and He's
no idea how much.
It's not up to us, and we have no idea. And that woman, like what, and so isn't that so? That's so. I find that so exciting. It's like an adventure.
Yes, that's exactly
he's
what
going to multiply
want,
this
yeah.
for us. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I haven't told her yet,
just
but there's a spot on my board, and I haven't. That's why I didn't mention her name. And this won't go out till after I ask her. But I'm going to ask her to be on my board because there's a spot open for. I have 4 Catholics, 4 Protestants on my board because I'm with all kinds of Christians. But anyway, so yes, you're right. It's a complete adventure. I'm just like, whatever, God, you're in charge here.
It is. And I also, too, Helen, I'm thinking myself and another man at our parish are considering starting a creatives kind of group this winter at our parish. He's a writer. I'm an artist, and I know that there's other creatives out there. There's musicians, and I think getting those kinds of things started at our parish, like, I bet people are going to come out of the woodwork. And I just think there's going to be people who are going to really love something like that.
And you know,
that's the
winter's
way
a
to
great
bring
time
art
to
back.
start things like this.
Yeah.
Do you know, so much art was created, especially in the Northern Europe. So much incredible art was created in the winter months because there was really nothing else to do. All the detailed stuff. Yeah. But anyway.
So that's my thing.
As far as
Excellent.
Catholic groups go, Jill Roots, who's part of this group, we shared a little bit of her stuff. That was one of her big loves, was getting Catholic groups started. And so if anyone wants help with how do you get a group started in your area, how can you call people together to work? And
she
we
might be a
do
good
need
contact,
to do more
yeah.
of that. Yeah,
Absolutely,
the Catholic Art
because-
Institute has been very helpful in all of this too, out of Chicago, and getting artists together and getting them to talk. And our little group here, we are our own little Pontifex group of artists, sharing and helping each other grow. And I know that the growth that I've had is because of this group.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you know, we wouldn't be here without our little group here. So anyway, well, how about I think let's wrap it up. We've done a good job, Kathryn. We've kind of stayed on
Give
point.
a little wave, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Yes,
thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Thank
yes,
you,
and we will see you soon.
Thank you, Fred. Bye. There we go. All right. Yay. That was so wonderful to have our group with us.
I know. Oh, they're so brave. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy kind of jumping in, especially, you know, so many of us, believe it or not, like we kind of would rather be in the background. So thank you, everybody. So, and we'd like to thank you for listening to the Secrets of Sacred Art on StarQuest. To find previous episodes of Secrets of Sacred Art and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/sacredart. You can send us comments by email at sacredart@sqpn.com or by leaving us a comment on YouTube. Join us in the conversation by visiting Secrets Sacred Art channel on the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. And we'll be back next time. Can't wait to see everybody. And we'll be discussing the Book of Kells, Turning Darkness into Light. Until then, I'm Alix Murray.
And I'm Kathryn Laffrey, hoping you find something beautiful.
Bye-bye.